Maine Governor Paul LePage did a radio interview on the station WGAN, and he spoke about Trump's response to Charlottesville. And this guy has a history of making silly, preposterous statements. So let's see what he said this time.
Some of the criticism of Donald Trump has been saying there was a more equivalence between the left and the right. And let me make it clear that I condemn violence, and I think that the Antifa group being violent is no more appropriate than anybody else. There is an argument to be made that what the KKK stands for is not quite the same as what Antifa stands for.
I think what they're standing for is equally as bad. They're trying to erase history. How can future generations learn if we're going to erase history? That's disgusting.
Are you talking about them
memorials? They're the monuments.
Taking the monuments down?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, listen. First of all, they should study their history. They don't even know the history of this country, and they're trying to take monuments down. Listen, whether we like it or not, this is what our history is. And it's just, to me, it's just like going to New York City right now and taking down the monument of those who perished in 9/11. That, it will come to that.
What? Oh, come on, man. That's, even if you're somebody who's like, whatever, I prefer you keep up the Confederate monuments. You know that's a bullshit comparison. One group are the victims of a terror attack. The other ones are people trying to uphold a slave state. They're not the victims. They were traitors who were trying to preserve what they thought was their right to own human beings. Now, how would his analogy make sense? Well, it would make sense if he's saying, if we had statues in the South of all of the victims of the Confederacy, all of the slaves who were property to their owners. If we had monuments of the slaves to honor the slaves, and somebody was trying to take those down, that would be akin to trying to take down the 9/11 memorial. Because the people who died on 9/11 were victims. Who were the victims of the Confederacy? The slaves! How does he convince himself of this garbage, man? I genuinely, like, the mental gymnastics that have to go in to believing what he just said. It's legendary. And then also, now this is a new argument that I heard that it emerged on social media, at least to me a few days ago, where now the argument is, the reason why you don't want to tear it down is you don't want to erase history. I mean, that's why these are up. It's educational. Except that's not why they're up. Now, if you want to talk about having Confederate regalia, Confederate monuments, and all that stuff in museums, I'm 100% with you. And if you got some idiot protesters who try to take this shit away in a museum, I will 100% be against them, because then they're being stupid. But these aren't in museums. Like we discussed, one of the ones that they recently took down in North Carolina, it was in front of a courthouse. In front of a fucking courthouse. What is it doing in front of a courthouse? These are people who tried to secede from the United States of America, traitors, and they were trying to keep a slave state. So you can't, in the place where you practice law and order, you're going to have the symbol of the opposite of law and order. I mean, come on, man. And another really important point is, guys, taxpayer money's paying for this stuff. This is public land. So are you comfortable with telling a black family that they need to pay taxes to keep up a monument that represents their oppression and their ancestors being owned by these assholes who fought a war to try to keep it so that they could own them? Come on, you don't believe that. There's no way anybody can believe that. So it's not educational. That's not the purpose. In fact, we're going to get into the history of it in a little bit. I got an interesting segment on that where I didn't know this, but apparently these Confederate monuments, it's not like they were put up a long time ago and it was put up as, an educational purpose. It was put up during the Civil Rights Movement, a lot of these monuments. Why? Specifically to intimidate the black people, to say, look, bitch, we're still in charge. The white majority is still in charge. Don't believe me? Go look at the statue of a Confederate general 2 blocks from your house to remind you who really runs this bitch. Wow. And now the move is you can't defend it on its actual merits. So now the move is you just pretend like it's only up there for educational reasons and to say never again. Right. Which is why, in Nazi Germany, there's statues of Goebbels and Himmler and Hitler everywhere because we don't want to erase our history. Why? We want to erase our history. We got to remind people to never again. No, you put the monuments up to the victims. The victims. Okay. That's all I got on this. 9/11, he's comparing it to the 9/11 memorial, taking down Confederate statues to the 9/11 memorial. Come on, even if you are in favor of this, I got eyelash in my eye. Even if you are in favor of this, you know that analogy is garbage.